A legal retainer is a contract between the lawyer, firm or clinic, and the client. The retainer sets out the obligations of both the client and the lawyer and describes the services the lawyer will provide. Before completing any work on behalf of a client, the legal retainer must be completed. This protects the lawyer and client.
It ensures that only those services mutually agreed upon are performed. A retainer should not be completed, however, before the lawyer has a good idea of the legal issues and relief sought by the client. In this example, it doesn't take the student long to figure out the legal issue. In other cases, it takes longer and multiple issues arise, some legal and some non-legal.
By definition, clients eligible for clinic services have incomes below, often significantly below, any low-income poverty measures in Canada. We know that people living in poverty are more likely to have less educational opportunities, may be struggling with language, and are more likely to have poor health and greater struggles just getting by day to day.
You must be conscious of these struggles and how they impact your advocacy. This does not mean pitying your client. It means supporting them with your legal skills to more fully participate in the case, and in society more generally. Part of this participation means understanding. Students must always explain the retainer to their client in full using plain language, checking back with the client to ensure comprehension.
So Ms. Jones, this is the retainer. This is the contract between you and the clinic. I'll go through it and explain what each part means, and I'll give you a copy to follow along as I go through it.
Okay.
So to begin with, this is that you, Sally Jones, give our clinic instructions to act for you in your landlord and tenant matter. I'm going to put the landlord and tenant matter right here at the top. That way, if a notice is filed or the situation progresses, we're still retained to help you. I'm not going to put in the pain and suffering claim because we can't help you with that. We're only here to help with the landlord and tenant matter. If you have another legal issue unrelated to this matter that we can help with, we'll have you sign a new retainer. This retainer is only for the landlord and tenant matter.
So, no pain and suffering claim?
Well, you can still pursue that claim, just not in this retainer and not with this clinic. I'll give you the contact information for the other clinic that does deal in this type of claim.
All right.
This part says that law students may work on your file. I myself am a law student, and a lawyer oversees everything done on your file. I won't be taking any action without the lawyer's approval. The next part says that there are social work students available to you at the clinic as well. Just like I'm supervised by a lawyer, a social worker oversees everything they do. You might ask to speak to a social worker if you're looking for information on community resources, such as affordable housing, or if you feel you need crisis counseling. I want you to know that they are available to speak to you if you wish.
And you can introduce me to them?
Yes, I can.
Here the student identified the parties to whom the retainer applies and made clear the services that are available. The student identified the people who might work with the client and their roles. The student also made it clear that the retainer only applied to the landlord-tenant matter and that a new retainer would have to be drafted if any additional matter came up.
At some clinics, social work services are offered within the clinic. When this happens, information about those services may be contained within the retainer. Other clinics do not have social work services and would refer clients to services in the community.
This part here says that you do not have to pay for our services. However, there are some expenses that we may ask you to pay back. For example, if the clinic has to pay to get a report for you, we may ask you to reimburse us. If you have difficulty paying us back, then we can discuss it at that time.
What if I can't pay you back?
The clinic does not generally take action against their clients. We really encourage clients to pay back what they can so we can continue to offer these services to others who may need them after you.
Okay, I don't think that'll be a problem.
Finally, this section says that if a court orders you to pay costs for the other party, we can assist you in asking legal aid to help pay for those costs. Now, these costs are not the money you owe them for debt or damages, but is the money it costs the other side to go through the legal process.
Okay.
The next section talks about financial eligibility. You're eligible for our services because you are on social assistance. If your income changes, you'll need to let us know.
In this part of the retainer, the student talked about payment and eligibility. In a clinic, clients are not generally liable to pay for services. However, they may be expected to pay for disbursements, money spent by the clinic to take a case forward, like photocopying and filing fees.
The student went over a number of instances where a client might be liable for costs incurred, including costs against the client. If a person is on assistance, the student should make a copy of the assistance stub for the client file. If a person is not on assistance and is working or has no income, the student will have to gather information about the client's income.
Students may need to ask clients to provide pay stubs or tax returns to verify that the client qualifies for services. Some students struggle with asking these personal questions. Explain why you're asking. Legal aid funders usually require that this information be collected. Clients generally understand the nature of clinic services.
This next section is very important. It talks about confidentiality. This means anything that you and I discuss stays between you and this clinic. Obviously, I'll have to talk about it with my supervisor, so the supervising lawyer can decide how to best help you. I might speak about your case with my colleagues within the office for learning purposes, unless you ask me not to. I cannot talk to others outside this office about your case under any circumstances, unless you give me permission. I'll have you sign a consent form before I contact anyone. For example, if you want me to contact your landlord, I'll need you to sign a consent form allowing me to do so. And even if you give me consent to talk to him, you can tell me not to talk about specific things. There are also a few other exceptions to confidentiality. If you tell me something that causes me to believe that you or someone else is in grave or serious danger, I'll have to contact someone. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm okay.
Here, the student went over the meaning of confidentiality and its limits and exceptions. It is important that the client understand the limits of confidentiality in order to prevent disclosure of information they did not intend to come into the hands of a third party. This includes posting personal information on social media.
Client can waive confidentiality by discussing the matter with a third party themselves and passing the information along to the clinic. They can alternatively sign a consent to disclose information to permit the clinic to contact the third party directly. Even when a client signs a consent to disclose information, they have the right to withdraw that consent or choose what information can or cannot be shared. The next part talks about if you have any complaints about the services at the clinic. You do have a right to make a written or verbal complaint. If you have any concerns, you can talk to me and I'll help you through the process. Or if you don't feel comfortable with me, you can ask me for my supervisor's contact information and they can help you.
Okay.
Finally, we'll talk about when this contract ends. It ends in a number of situations. First, it will end when we find a resolution to your landlord and tenant matter. Since this retainer is just to help you with that matter, once we find a resolution, the contract will be fulfilled. If you don't contact me to give me updated information or instructions about the case, the retainer might also end. It is important that you keep in touch with us. This is your case, and we can't make decisions for you. If you do not tell us how to help you, we would have to close your file. I understand that sometimes you might not have minutes on your phone. In situations like that, I would suggest, coming in person to the clinic or finding a payphone to make a call in.
How often do we have to meet?
Preferably once a week. Also, please open any mail you receive from us and reply promptly, and let us know immediately if you move or change your number. Another time we might end this contract is if you ask me to do something I can't do ethically. For example, if you told me you were going to lie to the court, I can't support you in doing that. If there's something I can't do ethically, I'll let you know and do my best to give you an opportunity to give me different instructions. The retainer would also end if you no longer wanted the clinic to act for you. You would just have to tell someone to close your file, and we would send a letter confirming your request. And finally, this retainer is only good for your lifetime.
Okay.
Miss Jones, do you have any questions? And would you like to review the retainer before you sign it?
No, everything seems pretty clear.
Okay. Well, in that case, if you'd like to retain the clinic to help you, I'll have you sign right here, and I will sign as your witness.
Okay.
Thank you. Now I'll go make a copy of the retainer.
Okay.
It is important to let the client know under what circumstances the contract ends. Aside from going over the obligations of the clinic in respect of the retainer, it is also important to ensure that clients understand their own obligations.
Many clinic clients are transient and have difficulty keeping in touch. It is important to remain sensitive to these difficulties while ensuring the client understands the importance of keeping contact with the clinic.
Jordan will also photocopy the retainer along with any other important documents when he thinks he has gathered all relevant information. This usually happens near the end of an interview.